Welcome to the Biz Bash podcast, where we make biz strategy a piece of cake. I'm Elizabeth.
And I'm Cami, but you might know us better as Eliza Ann Calligraphy and Cami Monet. We want to help you, our fellow stationers, artists, and calligraphers, confidently build a profitable and personality-driven creative biz.
We're here to share our honest-to-goodness advice and actionable strategies for ambitious artists.
So put on your party hat, quit being a procrastinator gator, and let's get this party started.
Hello, sweet friends. Elizabeth here. I just want to take a second to preface this episode by saying it was originally going to come out on August 9th during the summer. But since Cami and I took a summer break during July and August, this episode is coming out in September now. It might be a little confusing because Kendra and I talk at the beginning about how it's my birthday, but I just want you guys to know that when you're listening in September, it's not actually my birthday anymore. I know that's kind of probably a little weird and a little confusing, but I felt like I had to hop in and say that before the episode starts because, I don't know, I just don't want to cause confusion or anything like that. The episode with Kendra is really wonderful. We also had a little bit of a sound snafu at the end, so you're going to hear me coming in at the end of the episode as well because we lost the last few minutes of our recording, so just a heads up about that as well. The episode with Kendra, though, is amazing. I know you guys are going to love it. Can't wait to hear what you think. Hello, friends. Welcome back to the Biz Birthday Bash podcast. We are so excited to be talking to another amazing, like seriously beyond amazing guest today. Kendra Adachi is here with us of The Lazy Genius. So Kendra, say hello really quick. I'll read your bio in a moment, but first say hi.
Hi guys. Thanks for having me.
Yes, of course. I'm just like beyond thrilled to have Kendra here. We're going to talk about how to Lazy Genius our work from home. And real quick, I'll read a little bit about Kendra for all of you who aren't familiar with her. And if you're not familiar with her, then this episode is about to change your life because you're just going to be introduced to Kendra and all her things. And it just opens up a whole new world, a whole can of worms, and you'll never be able to get enough. So Kendra Adachi went to college to become a high school English teacher, but instead became the Lazy Genius, passionately and candidly sharing how to stop doing it all for the sake of doing what matters. Her work includes hosting the Lazy Genius podcast, cooking dinner on Instagram, and convincing her 3 young kids that talking into the phone is mommy's job. She and her husband love raising their family in the same North Carolina city that they both grew up in, and also author of 2 books. But we will talk about that more for sure, because you are just coming off the end of your book tour and launch and everything, right?
Yeah, I am. My second book, The Lazy Genius Kitchen, came out on May 3rd. So at the time we were recording this, 2 more bookstore events after like 3 kind of in-person traveling events and doing all the book tour stuff, and then I'll be done. So it's been so fun. And also I'm so looking forward to working less and going to the pool with my kids and just having some rest. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, coming just in time for the summer months. And this episode is going to be dropping in August. So at that point, hopefully you'll have had a couple of months of rest.
I'm going to be like a new person in August.
Yeah, actually, I think this episode is dropping like on my birthday, which makes it even more special.
Oh, that's fun. Well, I'm going to pretend that we're in real time. Happy birthday!
Thanks, Kendra. Thank you so much. Now it turned out really fun that this episode is going to come out that day. So in your own words, for those who aren't familiar with you, like I gave the little online synopsis of who you are, but can you explain what you do in the Lazy Genius mission?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I started the Lazy Genius Collective about 6 years ago because I had been writing on the internet for 5 or 6 years before that, and just noticed consistently with people online and people in my real life, and especially women, how tired everyone was. And I know we all are like tired and busy all the time, but I started to just notice patterns that we were tired for reasons we didn't necessarily need to be. We were tired because we were either trying really, really hard to do everything, Or we had done that already and had given up and we were just living in like hot mess world, but we were also tired because pretending to not care when you do care about certain things is also equally exhausting. And so I wanted to kind of be a voice on the internet to give permission for this wide, beautiful middle of how can we name what matters to us and care about what matters to us, and then strategically and intentionally let the other things go. So that's where the lazy genius was born. A lazy genius is someone who is a genius about the things that matter and lazy about the things that don't. And the trick here is that only you get to decide what matters to you. I do not get to decide. Your mother-in-law does not get to decide. The PTA president does not get to decide. Sure, your boss sometimes gets to decide on the boss's hours, but it's like we have to name what matters to us in all kinds of situations in our lives so that we can know how to use our time and our energy and our money and all of those things well so that we can live a more rooted life that feels like us.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I was like getting emotional over here hearing you say those words like to me after hearing them on so many other episodes and stuff. I was like, oh my goodness, this is so exciting and so important because you obviously, Kendra, are familiar with the fact that this gets even more complicated when you are your own boss.
Yeah.
So you're differentiating between what matters in personal life and what matters in business, and the big balancing act of everything that'll never truly be balanced, but we can make our best attempt in one way or another. And that's why this episode is going to be so much fun. But I have to say, I wrote down some things that I have been doing recently, Kendra, based off things that you have said that I wanted to share with people because they have been life changers for me.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Yes. So I bought a pair of jeans that fit. This is one of the
Get it. I'm seriously like, guys, why are we wearing pants that don't fit? We need to wear pants that fit. It makes everything better.
It does make everything better. And my dear friend Kelsey was with me to help me find these magical jeans, Kendra. And we walked into the mall. Went into Lenox Mall in Georgia, outside Atlanta. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that at all. But I walked into the mall and she goes, "Hey, Elizabeth, let's like jump into Abercrombie." And I turn to her and I go, "Oh no, I don't shop there. Like that's I don't do that." And she was like, "Trust me, let's just try. Like I've heard good things about their jeans." And of course, that is where we found the magical pair of jeans. And so that's why I also buy a pair of jeans that fit and take a friend with you because they might push you out of your comfort zone like I was. Just this past Sunday, I cleaned my master bathroom in the Lazy Genius order. I had my notes out and everything, made some changes along the way, blew a million brain cells with my cleaning products. I think I'm still like feeling that in my head.
Oh man, that bleach, man, that'll get you.
I know. It got me organizing my like junk drawer and my silverware drawer, asking myself the magic question, what can I do now to make life easier later? And then Change Your Life Chicken is one of the first things I was introduced to yours by my friend Anna. And that would have been like a couple years back. So your book, by the way, came with me all the way to the UK and back. It like just had shown up in the mail, The Lazy Genius Kitchen, the day before we went on our trip. And I packed it. It's a hardcover and everything. So that's like commitment.
I love it.
So anyhow, now that I'm done like blurting out all the things that I love, can you tell us real quick too, the name Lazy Genius, did that come to you like pretty naturally, or was it something you just landed on because someone else suggested it? I'm always curious for business owners how they decide to like name their business.
Yeah, totally. Well, I fortunately have the privilege of having as my best friend Emily P. Freeman, who is also an author, and she's kind of a soul whisperer. She's just a lovely, lovely human. And she has a podcast called The Next Right Thing podcast and a book by the same name. And she basically helps us make soulful decisions. Well, she's also secretly amazing at naming things. So when I was talking to her, we spent an entire day kind of going back and forth over text of like, okay, I know I'm going to do this thing. I know I'm going to move my writing and my content and my space in this internet in this direction, right? Of this like permission giving, hey, let's figure out what matters and go from there. And so she actually was the one who came up with Lazy Genius. And then immediately when she said, it's kind of like you're lazy and you're a genius. And I immediately was like, you're a genius about the things that matter and lazy about the things that don't. And we both like cheered. It was the best moment ever. We were like, we found it. But it took it took an entire day. And sometimes it will take weeks to come up with the name of something. But I tell you what, there is something so powerful about naming things. In my business, we're actually about to add something to our business. And it's had we've had some, I don't want to say trouble, but it's hard to articulate where it goes in the whole business model. And then someone on my team named it accurately. And it was like, there it is. We know exactly what it is. We know exactly where it goes. There's something very, very powerful about when you name something in your business correctly and it just starts to sing. So it was fun. It was fun that she was the one who came up with it. But that's always the answer. It's I didn't come up with it. Somebody else did.
Yeah. I know. I feel you there. That's how Cami and I are so often. And she hosts the podcast with me. Bouncing things off each other can really, really help when you have a friend to come up with stuff like that. So
it is. Yeah. And it doesn't even have to be somebody who is who works with you or for you or even knows necessarily what you do. I think we all have creative people in our lives. And so just to be hey, I'm trying to name this thing. Here's sort of what it is. Can you, whiteboard this with me? It's really good to talk to somebody about it.
Always agreed. Okay, so we will switch a little bit more into what we're talking about today, which is how to lazy genius work from home. And my first question for you is when you talk to your friends, Kendra, who work from home, and that's a lot of us now that COVID happened, what do you think their biggest struggles are? And then we can, of course, jump into maybe how to solve some of these.
Yeah, I think, here's the thing that we often do with life categories like this, really, really big ones, right? Working from home, time management, parenting, there are all these really, really big categories. And so often when a big category is overwhelming, we try and find a big solution to meet that big problem. Right? I think everybody listening could say, I just can't figure out how to work from home, how to kind of have this work-life balance. What do I do? What am I doing wrong? And I just want to say, this is the least sexy approach ever. It is not very flashy because what we want are big solutions and big machines and big formulas and okay, you're going to follow these 7 steps and then you're going to do these 4 things every day. And then you're going to set your desk up like this and all of that. And that is not practical. If there was a way for us to solve work-life balance and working from home universally, we all would have done it by now, right? We would have done it. We wouldn't still be talking about it. And the reason we're still talking about it is because we all have different small challenges in that. Everybody listening might struggle figuring out how to work from home well. But the challenges that impact that struggle are different for all of us. So that's why it's not that there is a consistent small challenge. The consistency is we're all missing the small challenge in our own lives. We're all focusing on a bigger thing rather than drilling down to the smaller thing that we can actually create a solution for. So I think that's where I encourage people to start, is to make it smaller. Make your time frame of when you're trying to create a solution, make your time frame smaller, make the challenge smaller, and make the solution smaller. And then something might actually work. And then you just keep doing that every day. You just try to make it a little bit easier every day. You're not trying to build a big machine and then press a button and automate your life. You're not a robot.
Right.
We want to be. It feels very appealing to be and we built it and now we go. But that's just not how life goes. So instead, if we can shift our goal rather than being how can we figure this out, is how can we make today a little bit easier? How can we make today's work a little bit easier? And as we ask that question every day based on what matters to us on that specific day, the more we actually get to experience working from home in a more fulfilling way.
I love that so much. Thank you I love that you took my question, you kind of like repackaged it and delivered it in a different format. And so for people who are trying to figure out what that is, their smallest step, the
Yeah.
first step that they can take, do they need to sit down with pen and paper? What is your recommended step for bringing ourselves some self-awareness for what that might be?
Yes, that's a great question. I think the place to start is to actually look at your next stretch of time. Okay. So we think like, we have this job, we have this business, and like we're going to be doing this until we don't see an end, right? And it's hard to problem solve without some sort of end, without some sort of marker. So if we start by naming a stretch of time that's in front of us. Okay, so what challenge do I need to solve between now and whatever? And it's arbitrary. It could be like between now and the end of this project, between now and the end of this launch, between now and the end of the school year, between now and the end of the summer, like, between now and the end of Christmas, like whatever you want to say. And if you can't think of an actual thing, you can just be like the next 2 weeks, like you just kind of make it smaller. Another way that you can think about what your time stretch might be is, how often have we said the following sentence? If I can just get through this, I'll be okay. If I can just get through, if I can just get past this project, if I can just get past this, whatever, if I can just get past this next month, everything's going to be better. Everything's going to feel better. So if you are finding yourself saying that, congratulations. You have named your stretch of time, your next stretch of time. So that's where I think it starts, is we problem solve on a smaller time scale. Start with time, okay? So if you're like, all right, so for the next week, this is my next stretch of time for the next week. What is a challenge? What is something that is making my work this week or my life when I leave work this week, whatever it is? What is making things kind of hard for me right now? What am I dreading? What is causing my energy to be depleted? What is frustrating to me? Like, kind of find whatever that pain point is. Now, you're probably going to have a lot. You're probably going to have a lot of pain points, especially if you have a longer stretch of time. So it could be, you asked about like getting out pen and paper. It could be that you get out a piece of paper and you go, okay, my next stretch of time is this. And then you brain dump. Then you just write down like, okay, what are all the possible challenges that I'm going to come up against in this next time stretch, right? And just write all those things down. Just jot them all down. It could be 1, it could be 21, doesn't matter. And then you look at those things and you go, all right, which one of these, if I solved this problem for this period of time, which one would kind of make the rest of these things like feel a little easier? What's the most important one? And then you can apply Lazy Genius principles from the Lazy Genius Way. There's 13 of them. You can apply any principle to that problem for that time stretch and experience it. And then you do that again. And then you do that again. And you pay attention every day that you're working. It's not I don't want this to feel like adding something else to do to your to-do list, right? Instead, it's more of a mindset for you to look at what is in front of you and for you to have the perspective of, I cannot solve this all at once. So how can I make today feel a little easier? How can I make today feel a little simpler, a little calmer, a little more fun, like whatever matters to you? And then your through line of that question is always like, well, what does matter? What matters most right now? What matters most about this project? What matters most about my energy when I leave this project? What matters most about the time that I spend at my desk? What matters about the time that I spend on the internet? Like, asking yourself what matters about these smaller specific things over a smaller specific set of time is really how we create a rhythm that works for us, rather than reading 7 work from home books and trying to MacGyver together some sort of big machine to fix it all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for real, because there's all sorts of advice out there, and that's something that we will touch on later, right? And one of your things that you wrote in your book, ignore what everyone else swears by. So that will come full circle of trying to like determine what works for you, rather than pulling information from a million other sources. And like you said, trying to MacGyver that into something. So You had mentioned in your answer there the lazy genius principles, which is the perfect segue because I have pulled a couple that I feel like really apply to lazy geniusing our work from home settings. And there's 13 of them. I only picked a few because I think it would be great for everybody to obviously buy the Lazy Genius book for themselves.
That's very
and read
kind.
through it. Yes, of course, and highlight it like I have, and bookmark and sticky notes and all of that good stuff. So, Kendra, I have some Lazy Genius principles written down, and you can kind of decide which ones that you want to touch on with examples that I have, or maybe there's a different one. But I was just kind of going to let you go for it because there's nobody that can say it the way that you can. And if there's anything that's like obviously written as a note for me, like feel free to skip.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I would love to hear which principles are serving you. Because I think that's something that can be really valuable about these conversations is actually making them personal. I think the more specific and personal we get with our examples, the more we can see in our own lives how we can apply things. But if we just start sort of broadly, it's like it's harder to find a place to land. So I think having the specifics is great. So I'm excited to hear what some of your choices are.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so the first principle that I pulled was to decide once. So I loved your idea of setting a specific outfit to wear. I think can especially be helpful for work from home when like the last thing you want to do in the morning is, I know this sounds so cliche, but like getting dressed for me sucks working from home.
It sucks for so many people. It really, really does. It does. It's like a real thing. Yeah.
It's a real thing. And I don't even have anyone to impress. And it's still the worst. And I think that's part of like what makes it so hard, right? Is sometimes I think it would be easier for me. I would be a little more intentional with it if I did have someone to impress. Mm-hmm. And that's why I just like roll out of bed and I'm like, okay, this pair of leggings and that t-shirt that I also wore the past like 2 days. That'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
like,
I think it's important to sort of like, if we can camp here for a quick sec, because I think this is the idea of decide once is what it says. It's you make a decision about one thing, one time, and then you keep doing that thing until it does not serve you anymore. You're allowed to change your mind and stop. You can pivot. Like, that's encouraged to do. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that you can decide once is, what you wear on a certain day of the week, especially maybe a more stressful day of the week. And I think that what is so great about this example, people share this one all the time, is that we think it sounds good. It sounds great for some people to be like, oh, this is totally what I'm going to wear on Mondays, or this is what I wear on Fridays, or this is just what I wear in general. This is like my work from home uniform. And you can sort of mix and match, like you have different versions of like this kind of shirt or whatever, but you have this decide once. But I think also, I just want to give you permission that if looking or feeling put together, stereotypically put together, like you're wearing hard pants or something, if that matters to you, then deciding once is a great thing to apply to your outfits, because you can, like, I'm going to wear jeans and a t-shirt and a blazer or something, like whatever that is. But if it does not matter, you can wear leggings and a t-shirt for 3 days in a row. Like, that's the thing that I feel like is really, really important. It's not that we are trying to move everyone in the same direction towards the same goal. We all have different goals and we all have different things that matter. So I don't want anybody listening to hear this and go like, oh yeah, I should probably like wear harder pants when I work, or maybe I should sort of dress like I am going to an office. Not if it doesn't matter to you. Not if it doesn't matter to you. If it does, awesome. We have principles to help that. If it doesn't, awesome. We have principles to help with that too. So I want to give that permission for sure as we keep talking about the uniform.
Yes, thank you so much. I myself am a big disclaimer person, so that like really hit home for me. Cammie's always teasing me, my counterpart, that how much I love disclaimers. So yes, that was perfect. Yeah, some days I do need hard pants, Kendra. Some days it makes me feel better and more prepared.
Yes.
It makes me feel more official. My brain's a little more put together on a day that I'm maybe wearing jeans instead of leggings. And so that's always kind of up in the air for me.
Mm-hmm.
Hey guys, we just wanted to hop in and talk about one of our amazing resources, the A to Z directory. All of us have thought at some point, how did she do that or how did she make that? And maybe you don't know where to start or how the heck to produce this amazing product you've dreamt up.
Well, the A to Z directory is the missing puzzle piece in your biz, you guys, seriously. So it's built in the form of a yearly membership, and it's your one-stop shop for finding suppliers and vendors for all the things. Literally where to print everything from custom invitations, greeting cards, mugs, koozies, acrylic printing, letterpress, custom ribbon. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And it literally goes from A to Z. From acrylic printers to zipper pouches, we have it in the A to Z directory.
We want to help all of you search less and create more with this list of 300 plus vendors and suppliers. Don't worry, they're very organized. It's not going to be overwhelming and confusing when you join. And this membership also includes access to a private Facebook community. It's incredibly active and involved. And if you need a question answered fast, that is definitely the place to go.
Yeah, our Facebook group really is the best. You guys, everyone is so helpful in there. And we're in there too, answering questions you guys might have. So it's a great way to get access to us and ask us things without sliding into our DMs. So we're more likely to answer you in the Facebook group, just saying. Anyway, also in the Facebook group, this is new for 2020 and we're really excited about it. We are hosting monthly Power Hour Q&A sessions that are live, and these are only available to our A to Z directory members. So you can hop in with us live and ask us all your burning questions in real time and just hang out with us every month. And we do these at different times so you can actually be there live, and the replays are always available in the Facebook group for members.
This resource is priced at $147 a year, which honestly is extremely affordable and is full of so many benefits, such as exclusive vendor coupons for members only. And we would love to have you guys join. Seriously, it's kind of like our family and our tribe. So visit bizbirthdaybash.com/directory to sign up today and use coupon code podcast2020 to receive $20 off your first year. That's podcast, all caps, 2020 for $20 off your first year.
We can't wait to see you in the Facebook group.
But for people who are experiencing work from home for the very first time, which is less, I don't want to say like less common, but you know, COVID changed things for a lot of people. But I remember when I first started working from home, I was really lonely, like really, really lonely, going from an office space where I had coworkers 9 to 5 every day to just being by myself in my apartment, just me 5 years ago when I first started doing this. So something that I think could have helped me in that season was maybe deciding once that there was like a day of the week that I went to a coffee shop or something.
Absolutely.
Like
yes.
Helping build something into my routine to get out and have some people interaction.
Yes, because that matters to you, because that matters to your work, that matters to your energy. I love that example. Absolutely.
And then the last one I had written down for decide once is your email inbox. So I think that all of us have different levels of how we handle email. Mm-hmm. I can be a little insane that I like to like check it and have inbox 0 at all times. Mm-hmm. Like that is my preferred way. But some people would rather not look at it for 3 days.
Yep.
So I kind of wrote decide once in terms of like what matters for your email inbox.
Absolutely. That's the thing. That's where everything starts is, well, what matters about this? Because I could give you like how I approach email, but I have a different priority than probably 95% of the people listening, right? Because we all have different focuses. I'm the same way. I'm very much an inbox 0 person. I have to like calm down my nervous system when I see screenshots with all the red notification numbers on people's like texts and email. I am like inbox 0 in all places. Like anything unread, I'm like, no.
Yeah.
It just freaks me out. Whereas my husband, I mean, I think right now he has like, almost 2,000 unread emails. And I'm like, babe, do you want me to go through all this? And because to me, what I'm doing is I'm projecting what matters to me onto him. It doesn't matter to him to have the red. It doesn't matter to him. And he's a digital hoarder. Like he loves to be a digital hoarder. And so he keeps those things and it's totally fine. And so I have to learn to kind of let go of that. So I'm not going to share. That's the thing. It's like, I don't like to share super, super specific examples without naming the fact that I'm doing that thing because this is what matters to me. Right.
Yeah.
So if you like inbox zero, but also perhaps you don't always have time to create thoughtful responses at any time of the day, like what I will do is I will just I will decide once, like set a block of time. It's not the same block of time every single day or even throughout the week. But when I look at my weekly schedule, or even just like at the day and like, okay, where do I have a 30-minute block where I'm still like, I've got energy, but I don't need to be like super on or super creative. This is when I return my emails. Because I like to end every day with inbox zero. I don't have to, it doesn't have to be there like constantly, but I like to be in my day where every email has been responded to if I can. So that's how I do it, right? That's the choice that I make is like, where's a 30-minute window today where I can answer emails? But that's because that's my own priority. So it just depends on what matters to you. Yeah.
And I realized too, I have a good example about email in terms of what matters because I made a pretty conscious choice early on that my email was going to be on my computer. So any email accounts that come through on my phone, like my mail app on my iPhone, that's like my junk fun email that like I get my emails from Old Navy and places I shop. I don't know, Williams-Sonoma, Target, those all go to a specific email address. And that's okay for me to have on my phone with those like red notifications, like you said, Kendra. But for my business email, I'll look at it on Safari sometimes on my phone, but I don't have that in an official mail app because I've purposely decided, like for me, that having that on my desktop is what matters. And that allows me to like focus and give it the attention I need. So that was something I decided once early on and have like stood by.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. And again, it's so good to hear those specific examples, but for people listening to go, oh, that's such a great choice for her because of what matters to her. Like for us to all to have the freedom to go, I don't know if that will matter to me, but this is getting me thinking about coming up with a solution that would. Right?
Yeah.
And I love that. I'm the same way. And you're actually reminding me that I had taken my work email account off my email app, and then I put it back on during the book launch. And I haven't taken it off again. And I need to take it back off again because I don't need it. Because you're right. Like I'm checking my email, my work email more often than is necessary when I would rather be doing other things because of the accessibility of it. I loved it when it wasn't on my phone. And so I'm like making a note for myself, remove your work email from your phone again, Kendra. We're past the season of needing it as much. I don't need it as much anymore.
Exactly. So yes, everyone to each their own in terms of like what email works, what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And Kendra, I do love this approach so much because at the beginning I actually had a really hard time listening to any sort of business podcasts because I didn't like the hard and fast advice because I was like, well, sometimes I don't want to take it or that won't work for me. So I had friends that were like, oh, was listening to podcasts, taking in everything they could when they first started a business. And I was like, I can't do that. It's like too much extra noise for me.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm the same way. And I also think I think at different stages of business as well. And this is, I don't know what the kind of scope of your listenership is in regards to that. But I think in the beginning, when you're starting out and you're trying to create your own thing, there is so much value in hearing what other people say and listening and gathering information and getting ideas and getting inspiration and all of that. And then there comes a point where you are gathering at the expense of the work. You are trying to learn more tools at the expense of the actual work. So there was a stretch for me too, where I was like, I would listen to every single business podcast I would find, and it was the best. And then I was like, wait, I'm not actually doing anything yet. I'm just listening to podcast episodes. I should start applying those things and like doing my work. And so there's such a spectrum of that. There's like such freedom in doing what you need in the season you're in based on what matters at that point. And then knowing that you can change, you can shift and you can pivot and you can go, okay, I'm not going to do that as much anymore. It doesn't mean that that was a bad decision or that, you're taking some sort of huge risk or you might fail by moving on to the next thing. Like it's just the scope of doing work, of doing business and just being a person that not everything is going to be relevant all the time in every season of life.
Mm-hmm. And you just reminded me too, because you had asked about kind of like the scope of our audience. We have a very special audience. They're of course special to me. And that most of them are artists. So we have a lot of creative entrepreneurs, whether they are selling e-commerce through their own sites on Shopify or Squarespace, or they're using Etsy as well as a place to sell their work. So we have a lot of people that are doing paper goods or calligraphy, watercolor art, invitation design. But it extends beyond that too. We have photographers, people just in the wedding industry. I know someone who was making jewelry told us she was listening to us at one point. So it's kind of like a very special corner. I'm biased, but it's a very special corner of creative entrepreneurs. So yeah, we always need a little bit of the advice to discern, but also just choose what's best for us. Because sometimes business podcasts, they don't always like hit home perfectly for our niche, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I love creative entrepreneurs because like I'm a customer, like big time customer of people who just like make their own beautiful thing. It's just my absolute favorite. Like going to like really fun craft fairs and just seeing people's wares is like one of my favorite things to do ever. So just high fives to everybody listening. Like, get it. You're doing such good work. Like it's so beautiful when people offer their art to the world. It's just one of my favorite things.
Yeah, it's mind blowing. And you have to put your heart on the line to do it for sure. You put your heart on the line with any business, but art is a little extra. But you had also mentioned something about we're listening to all these ideas, right? And you realize, okay, I'm not actually doing anything, which leads me to the next lazy genius principle of starting small. And in your book, you had written, want to have a thriving business, reach out to one potential client a day, just start small. And I had written in there like a wedding planner, a vendor that you might want to work with, an artist you might want to collaborate with as examples for our audience.
Yes, I think that when we're trying to build a business, we're trying to like, it's the same sort of thing I said before about like having a big machine and a big solution. It's like, I'm going to build every aspect of this business. It's like, creating like a luxury hotel with a ton of rooms and all of these amenities before you even know who your customer is. And then you open the doors and it's like, that would be, a hotel needs to operate that way. A hotel needs to be at like full functioning capacity before it lets people in. It can't be like under construction all that much before it like begins. But when you're doing like an e-commerce site like this, you actually don't have to have the whole thing built because you don't really know what it is yet. And it kind of keeps you from being able to adjust and iterate as you learn your own craft, as you learn your customer, as you learn what energy is required of you for your job. So I think that starting small, while not super fun, every time I share start small as a principle, I could just sort of feel like the simultaneous like frustration of like, no, I want to go big, starting small. No, like people getting frustrated. But then also at the same time, there's this deep freedom in it because it's like, well, I can do that. I can start small. I can so that's a great example of like, if you're wanting to build your business, it's not that you have to have this like incredible Rolodex of like all of these contacts all at once, that you can just like start small just by making a list, like what's your dream list of like, of other people in your industry that you would like to connect with. That could be the first thing that you do is just make a list of those people. And then the next thing would be like, okay, well, let me reach out to one of them. Let me just send one of them a DM or let me spend the next few days, the next week, just thinking of what a fun collaboration could be with this specific person. It's not that you have to build this thing that can just like launch from 0 to 60 right away. You can break down like a goal like that into really, really, really tiny pieces. And all of those pieces matter. And here's the thing, you would have to take all those steps anyway. like when you build something big, it is made up of a lot of small steps.
Yeah.
So rather than seeing it as like, I need to get to the end of this big thing, just be like, I'm just going to take some small steps in the general direction I know I want to go. But then you have the freedom and the flexibility to be able to adjust as you go, because the big thing at the end is not the focus. The small steps are.
Yep. And all the small steps are stepping stones to the next thing and the next thing. And
They
then
are.
before you know it, it's, I have friends that we all started businesses around the same time. And I'm not so much doing wedding invitations anymore, but I have friends now that are booked back to back to back. And that would have been in their wildest dreams when they, 4 or 5 years ago. And so the other thing is start small. And also it takes time. I think we always want an easy button. It's really easy to compare and to see what everyone else is doing out there, but that it's okay to focus on where we are in our current season.
Absolutely.
Okay, Kendra, the next lazy genius principle that I chose is build the right routine, asterisk for you. So what helps get you in the mindset to work? And for me, it is really sitting down and turning Spotify on. I feel like if I have my music going, that is what gets me in the mindset to do design work. I know Cammie, though, needs to have like 3 cups of coffee in the morning before she even touches anything.
Yeah.
I, on the other hand, would just about keel over if I started my day that way. But we all have to discern how we're going to start our days. And in your book, you say to ask yourself the right questions. And one of those is, what matters about my work today?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that, so a lazy genius routine is less about like what you just said. It's less about we're going to do like these 6 things in a row, right? It's more about, I need this. This is where I need to go. Well, let me ask you this question actually. When you play your music, what does that create in your body? What does that create in your environment? Like what feeling is that creating for you as you begin your work? Is it calm? Is it energy? Is it inspiration? What does it create?
I think it creates the environment of focus. Because then it's, for some reason, it's like having that music on in the background for me, it gives me a reason to like sit here and be at my computer because I'm listening to something I enjoy. So it is a bit of like that calm, kind of that focus of like, okay, I'm here and this is what I'm doing right now.
That's good. And I think that what is so important for us to start with, because another lazy genius principle that is sort of like is an undercurrent of so many things, is to go in the right order. And so many times we do the right things, but we do them in kind of a wonky order. And then we don't get to experience kind of the benefit of those things fully. And I think that happens a lot with routine, is we try to go like, okay, I'm going to light this candle. I'm going to do this thing. You like have your list of your things that you're going to do. And you miss the first step of what is it that you're wanting to feel? Like, where are you going when you're starting your workday? What mindset do you want to have? And again, we all have different ones. And that's why naming that is so good. And that's why I wanted to ask you. So if it's like calm and focus, knowing that also, it does a couple things. It helps you eliminate parts of your space, of your environment, and even of your routine that you're like, you know what, this does not make me calm or focused. We're going to get rid of this. That's why you don't drink 3 cups of coffee, because that would not make you calm and it would make you so focused that you wouldn't actually be able to focus because like caffeine is crazy. So you know that, right? And what it also does is, let's say a person has like 4 or 5 things that they do ideally like to do to begin their workday. If you are rushed, if you are behind, if something goes amiss, because things often do, and you do not have time to do those 4 or 5 things before you begin your work, you now have the freedom in yourself to go like, the 4 or 5 things are not what's important right now. The feeling that I get at the end of those 4 or 5 things is what matters. So which one of these things can I do to get there? If I can't do all 4 or 5, let's pick the most important one. And for you, it sounds like it's the music. Like you don't really need a lot of other things. If you play your music, you really are good to go because it's creating the environment and the feeling within you that you need to do your work. And so if we start with that, if we start with thinking about a routine is less about this list of things you do and more about the direction you are going, the feeling that you want at the end of those things, the simpler you can make the routine and the more it can impact you no matter what else is going on in your day.
Yes, I love that so much. And because now I'm realizing too, as you're talking, it's like I have to have the music because that signifies focus to me. Otherwise, I'm going to want to be in the kitchen doing dishes, petting my cats, be out in my garden, be doing the million other things that I could do at home that isn't work. But
Right.
something about the Spotify playlist, like for me, is the signal of like, this is my time to focus. This is the one thing I need to do. So I can come in from gardening and I can throw off my shoes, and within 5 minutes, I can be at my laptop and working because that's what music does for me specifically.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's great. I love thinking of it that way. Do you have an example of something that works maybe for you or other like case studies that you've heard?
Yeah. So I think one of the things that works for me, well, it depends on my season. It's the same thing I said earlier about like naming your next stretch. I think that it's important to know that sometimes like your beginning work routine has to shift based on the time stretch that you're in. And right now, because I am in this sort of like down ramp, this like slowing, deceleration, deacceleration.
The off ramp. You're on the off ramp.
I'm in the off ramp. I can't think of the right word, but I'm on the off ramp of like a lot of energy, a lot of work and effort from this book launch. So because I'm on this off ramp, I am actually starting my workday later than usual. I have 3 kids and they're usually all out of the house by like 7:40. And so between, 6:15 and 7:40, it's just kind of like go, go, go. It's making the lunches and making sure everybody's got their things and, all the normal stuff. And once they get out, it used to be like in book launch time that I would get ready as a person before I would like interact with them. I would get up earlier so I could get ready, send them to school, and I could begin my workday at 8:00 so that I could just go. Ever since the book came out, I have been starting work closer to 8:30 or 9. And I've been getting ready like after they go and then having a cup of coffee, like kind of slowly taking my time, like scrolling Instagram for fun, reading a book, just like kind of hanging out and being a person because I haven't been able to do that as much in that busier season. And so right now, I actually want my work energy as I begin to be more settled because I have naturally what I call a caffeinated squirrel brain. Like my default brain is a caffeinated squirrel, just like going crazy all the time. And so I don't have to. In certain seasons, it really benefits me to let that caffeinated squirrel just run. And then in other seasons, it's beneficial for me to like calm her down and be like, hey, you know what? We're good. We can start slower today. And right now I'm in a season of that. And so my routine looks different really every day, but usually I don't go into my office until like at least 8:30. And I'm kind of giving myself that permission. Like, no, don't go there right away. You've got time. You've got less to do. Like, let's go slow.
Yeah, I love that. And there's always adjustments. And I can totally get that too, because when my husband and I went to the UK, which is where I told you I took the book with me, The Lazy Genius Kitchen, came with me on that trip. I felt like the caffeinated squirrel sans caffeine leading up to that because I was getting up at 5 or 6 a.m., which for anybody who knows me, a lot of people who listen to this podcast do. That's not normal for me. I'm like a roll out of bed at 8:30, 9 type of person. Like I'm a much like later, I would rather start my workday by 10. Like that's what works for me. But in those weeks leading up to it, there was so much that needed to be done that I actually kind of took joy in that of having my routine be a little different than it is usually. But on a day-to-day basis, that doesn't work for me. I don't know what I would do with myself if I was up at 6 a.m. I would be like putzing around, not doing anything. So that leads me to like the next point, which I bolded because I feel like this is one of my favorite things that you have said in your books and that you say all the time, which is ignore what everyone else swears by because we feel so much pressure to do what we should rather than what we want to do. And for
Yeah.
me, for a long time, that was the pressure of a 5 or 6 a.m. morning of like, well, if I'm going to be a successful entrepreneur, I could list off all these names that have the 5 a.m. mornings. You have to be up at 5 a.m. That's like
Yeah.
what leads to success. And I've spent years trying to unpack that and just learn that it's okay for me to ignore it.
Right.
And I don't have to do that. I'm my own boss. I feel like I should, but I don't have to.
Exactly.
Hey friends, Elizabeth hopping in here to let you know that unfortunately, right there when Kendra and I were finishing that thought, our episode got cut short, which is such a bummer. We had another 10 minutes or so of chatting that we did. And some of that was, of course, wrapping up at the end of the episode to tell you some of the housekeeping things, tell you where you could find Kendra and where you could listen to all of her stuff. But I wanted to take a moment to finish up a couple of those thoughts there, things that we talked about just a little bit because it felt like it ended a little bit abruptly and short when I was just talking about the fact that we should be ignoring the pressure of what we feel we should do rather than what we want to do and how we try to discern that difference between all of that. So, after Kendra and I kind of wrapped up talking about that, which I wish I could put it into her words, exactly what she said again. The thought was beautiful. It was wonderful. It was so well said and perfect. And unfortunately, it is gone, which makes me so sad. But we had a couple other notes on the document, things about batching it and going in the right order. But at that point, we were coming really close to the end of our time with Kendra. So I didn't actually talk about batching tasks and going in the right order with her. Those are lazy genius principles. And so basically what I'm here to do is tell you guys in the next couple of minutes where you can find all of Kendra's amazing resources. It has truly, truly changed my life in so many wonderful ways. So the first one is the lazygeniuscollective.com. That's going to be where all of Kendra's podcasts are housed. You'll be able to go through and see all of her episodes that she has. And so she has made it so clear and obvious what each episode is about, which is really, really wonderful. For example, how to make time for fun, the Lazy Genius Guide to Work-Life Balance, probably a little similar to what we had talked about today, an episode on how to name what matters, an episode about chores I do every day. These are a bunch of episodes I've listened to personally as well. So they're really, really wonderful. And like she had told me on the part of the call that unfortunately you guys don't get to hear, is that she tries to name them in a way that makes it really obvious for exactly what she's talking about. Her episodes are about 20 minutes. They're so well put together and so well done. And her 2 books that you guys need to be aware about are, of course, The Lazy Genius Kitchen, the new one that just came out. And she was telling us that there's nothing quite like it. It's not a cookbook, you guys. It is basically the guide to how to organize your kitchen in a way that makes sense for you and your life. So whether you're cooking full-blown meals, 3 full-blown meals a day in your kitchen, to only making coffee in your kitchen, what is it about your kitchen that matters to you? This is the book, the beautiful hardback book that I took to and from the UK with me. It is so gorgeous. It has illustrations. It's designed in such a fun way. She worked so hard on it. So I definitely encourage you guys to check that out. And of course, she has The Lazy Genius Way, Embrace What Matters, Ditch What Doesn't, and Get Stuff Done. That is her first book with all of her founding principles. So a lot of those we were talking about today. The Lazy Genius principles, like decide once, start small, build the right routine, all of that stuff. So Kendra had so many amazing things to share with us today. It was really such an honor to be able to talk to her, to have an hour of her time. So kind, so sweet. And I would highly encourage you checking her out. on Instagram as well. Like, take a screenshot today of the episode while you're listening. Make sure you tag us at Biz Birthday Bash and tag the Lazy Genius. That is Kendra on Instagram, just to let her know that you're listening and that you've enjoyed the episode. Either way, thanks so much for tuning in today. So sorry about the little snafu at the end there. I hope the rest of the episode was something that you guys really enjoyed listening to, because I know I really enjoyed it. Getting to talk to her was really, really surreal, really such a fun and cool experience. So we will talk to you next time. Bye, guys.